All right, we're live. So, hello everyone. I'm Sampurn Ratanjan, and I have been in the data science field for a decade. And currently, I'm serving as the director for data science at Geeks for Geeks. Today, we're going to talk about agentic AI, especially how UiPath can help build some agents quite easily. But the question is, what is agentic AI? Well, for the past few years, we have seen AI become a powerful tool, not something we build, but something that responds to our commands. And the next evolution, or rather the next revolution, is agentic AI. I believe that agentic AI is the true future. But what does that mean? So instead of answering a single question, an AI agent is autonomous. You give it a high level code, not a dozen specific prompts. For example, you wouldn't just ask, write a code for a login page. You would say, build, test, and deploy a complete user authentication system for my new website. The agent would then plan the steps, reason about the best tools, write the code, access documentation, and debug its own errors and execute the entire task. This is a fundamental shift. We are moving from AI as a passive assistant to AI as a proactive teammate or digital autonomous worker. To talk more about this and show you how you can do this on your own, we have a team from UiPath. Let me introduce them to you. So first, we have Isibu Jikan, who is a product builder and an engineer at heart, with a simple belief that our purpose is to improve people's lives. Building meaningful products is one way of doing that, and he's now working on AI and agents to deliver that mandate at scale. Adrian Tamas is a principal product manager at UiPath, especially on coded agents. He is driving innovation at the intersection of automation and AI. He focuses on building reliable, intelligent agentic systems that empower businesses to accelerate productivity with confidence. Radu Makano is a software engineer at UiPath, focused on designing and orchestrating reliable, high impact systems. As one of the main contributors to UiPath's open source libraries for coded agents, he is deeply committed to improving the developer experience, making it easier and more intuitive to build AI powered solutions. Radu Gorges is a software engineer at UiPath. Again, he is working on making agent driven automations reliable and easy to operate. Besides coding, he builds coded agent demos that connect agent frameworks with the much wider UiPath platform. Carrying it clarifies deployment, queuing, evaluations, human in the loop patterns end to end. So, without much further ado, let's introduce the team, and I hope everybody comes live now. And yeah, I'll give the stage to you guys. Hi guys, thank you for being us with here today.
Thank you. Our pleasure. All right. We're very much looking forward to this session, and I hope you'll find it entertaining as well. Should we start the presentation also?
Yes, yes.
All right. All right. Thank you for the quick intro. Together with my colleagues, we will be presenting LlamaIndex agents and how to build and integrate them with the wider UiPath platform and enhance them using elements of the platform. Now, before we deep dive into this topic, let's set the context a bit. We are living in unprecedented times, like you've mentioned as well. Change is accelerating faster than most organizations can keep up with. Emerging technologies, especially Gen AI, are reshaping what's possible across every industry. But with that speed comes a paradox. While leaders overwhelmingly believe this is a massive transformation, most are actually struggling to scale it. The average enterprise has over 175 applications, each of which was designed to move forward some part of the business. But these applications aren't siloed. It's not like HR uses only application A and finance uses only application B. Rather, every single employee and every single process spans multiple of these applications. Now, this is a key aspect that is often overlooked when thinking about technology, and the hero of the enterprise story here is the process, the holistic end-to-end enterprise process that drives the business forward. Technology needs to live at this level to be most effective. Now, processes have their problems too, and you can categorize these challenges into four main buckets: extracting information from documents, making intelligent decisions, interacting with applications, and human supervision and review. Take a look at the process of the bottom of what I'm presenting here. It's representative of most enterprise processes, and you can see what the four problems are. It's not enough to have standalone technologies to help solve these problems though. Otherwise, you're just adding to the 175 applications that most already have. These technologies need to be orchestrated. Here is where I have an analogy for you guys to picture this. Consider a kitchen with updated appliances, the freshest ingredients, and the newest pots and pans. But if you put a below average chef in that kitchen, you're going to get a below average food. If you flip that around and you have an average kitchen, but you put a Michelin star chef in there, you're going to get some quality output. And then there's the better side of the two stories: Michelin star chef and best ingredients, freshest tools, and you can get the world-class food. Now, if you look at technology in the same way, you have the best of agents, best of IDP tools is important, but if you minimize your value without something to orchestrate everything together in, it's not going to succeed as you would expect. Each of these challenges has a compressing technology that solves it. Intelligent document processing solves the document issue. Agents help you make your decisions. RPA is the go-to technology for data entry, and the human-in-the-loop experience allows employees to get involved. But there's an implicit fifth technology required as well, and that's an orchestration layer to bring it all in the right time for the tool to be executed. If you look at UiPath history and some major milestones across the many years of development, first it was RPA in 2018, where we could automate the basic UI elements of processes. Next came Human in the Loop with the introduction of Action Center and apps. A major advancement was the introduction of a robust IDP technology that includes both document and communication processing. And recently, we've introduced our agentic capabilities, which round out the technology required to automate the totality of our processes. But only through a governed process orchestration layer does everything tie together. Our history and the world-class software UiPath has built along the way is exactly what is needed in the new agentic automation era. And this leads us to the full UiPath platform. Just as the processes I've just shown are comprised of individual tasks performed by different people, our platform is comprised of best-in-class activities which can be orchestrated into robust, high-valued enterprise processes. And it's all created on a foundation of trust, security, and governance. Now, it will take us quite a few sessions, and perhaps if of interest, we can schedule follow-ups and cover our platform end-to-end. But today, I want us to focus on one of its stars, agents. Well, we essentially call AI agents an intelligent assistant or autonomous system that can receive information, reason it, and take actions towards the goal. All this being enabled by recent LLM development and democratization. If you use traditional LLMs, the likes of ChatGPT, it can respond with information. But imagine if you could also use tools, search the web, use your PC or a virtual station, use any tools, any applications, send emails, fetch data. That's the difference that defines an agent. If I'm to overly summarize our agents in one slide, it may look like something like this here, where we offer both low-code and coded, autonomous and conversational that include tools directly or via MCPs, can have contexts, can use escalations, and all of the security and reliability features and products to reach production at enterprise grade level, resulting agents you can trust. Now, handing the mic to my colleague Eusebio to further deep dive on coded agents.
Cool. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for telling the story. And what follows, I would like to turn the page and briefly present the next chapter. But before we dig into any coded agent details, I mean, if we are honest as engineers, there are mainly two things that really drive us. One is curiosity, that's one part, but the second one is the need to solve problems. And in this whole space that we are exploring right now, it definitely hits the curiosity nerve for sure. It's new, it brings new possibilities that weren't there before, and you can tell that there is something big there. Still, there is the other part, and this inevitable question like, is there a real need to supercharge these agents with full coding, control, and flexibility? And this session, and in general, the answer, the real grounded answer is yes. More than that, as we dive in, the more we see real use cases come to life, the more that the yes keeps getting louder and louder. And this is a great news for developers. And it is a great news because they can actually close the gap between the hype, the expectations, and deliver on the agentic promise. And it is here where UiPath coded agents come into play, as they are supercharged with a level of control and flexibility that enables developer to mind to bridge that gap. But let's start by demystifying them. What are UiPath coded agents? In simple terms, are agents authored in code and natively integrated as an agent process within UiPath platform. More specifically, though, they are developed using a frameworks like LangChain or LlamaIndex, and then integrated with the UiPath Python SDK to get to access platform resources like assets, buckets, context joining, LM gateway, document understanding, and so on. Once we are done with that, we can pack and publish as a native UiPath package, and we can do that via the command line interface, basically transforming a generic agent code into a native UiPath package. And finally, once we have that, we can deploy it as a UiPath process such that is orchestrated, governed, and secured under UiPath. Now that we know that it's open source and flexible, let's see what are the implications of that. And I will just name a few. One, because it's open source and by design, there is no locking. Not now, not ever by design. Secondly, in terms of authoring experience, we have full flexibility. You can use any tools. You can integrate this into your pro dev life cycle. It's part of it. It's not prescriptive, not disruptive, what we can meet developers where they are. Thirdly, in terms of interoperability, we know that in this domain, there is this need to interact between agents and application. This will be a forever need. Now we have some protocols like MCP, but we don't know what's next. I don't know if MCP is here to stay, but we are committed and making the architectural decisions so that we can have this now, but prepare for what is next to come. And finally, we are natively compatible with the emerging agent developing frameworks like LangChain and LlamaIndex. And we will emphasize on the LlamaIndex one today. And this portfolio will get larger, and the connection and integration with these frameworks will get tighter. So still, just to look at some points and arguments for coded agents. One is that with coded agent, you can have a blend of coded steps, and those coded steps will be deterministic, but also some non-deterministic LLM-powered decision. Also, in terms of complexity, we can go way beyond agent on one agent loop, right? Having branching and agent logic, multiple nodes, steps, trajectories, and have that nuanced decision making. Also, in terms of flexibility, I mean, if you can code it, you can do it. I think that summarizes it pretty much. In terms of customization, not all systems are ready to be integrated via integration services or well-known APIs. We know that maybe legacy software need bespoke solutions, and with coded agents, you have that liberty, that customization power to integrate with whatever system. Um, Also, you can reuse agents across scenario. And actually, this is what we are going to show today. We will start with a generic agent and show you how you can leverage those generic parts and tailor them to a specific use case. And based on this principle, you can do this again and again and again. And finally, as I think I mentioned before, we integrate into the product lifecycle. We are not disruptive. We are not prescriptive in that manner. We meet you where you are. And finally, one last thought is that power is nothing without control. This, I think, perfectly describes where we are now in this phase. And because we know that, and because we know that that is the challenge, we know that also in practice and also intuitively, we see a trade-off between reliability of the agent and the level of control that the agent has. In other words, the more non-deterministic, the less reliable we expect an application or a system to be. And the mandate and the promise from UiPath is that we can leverage the established industry-leading orchestration, governance, and deterministic tools like RPAs, API workflows, human in the loop, and then seamlessly blend with the agentic automation space, which is agent orchestration, guardrails, scoring, evals, monitoring. And having this all together, we can bend the curve and make this trade-off much more appealing and deliver on the agentic promise. I think that's it should be enough with the slides. Before I hand it to Radu, let me just show you a generic agent, like building blocks, where they are, and then we'll go through this journey of taking these building blocks and adjusting them to a specific use case. Okay, so then I will just go to cursor. Here I have a LlamaIndex agent where I have an entry point, and that entry point would have a query, a user input. I can ingest data as an index and have also the opportunity to insert here at a particular point a human in the loop, so that we can have a check before we have the final output. Now, if we just scratch the surface for this one, these are the building blocks, and I think it will make sense. The building block would be to have the input data that you would need, which again are the user input, possibility to ingest data, and to include human in the loop. And as you can see, as we progress down this line, this is the entry point, and then you have add data to the index, which is this one right here, add data. Then you can specify where the data is, where is the reference. Then you can wait for index ingestion, like actually ingesting the data and make it part of the context for that agent. As we progress, obviously the main part is processing that query. So having the user input against the context that we have, and we'll have a system prompt and an LLM call with a prompt like this. Obviously, when we specialize this one, we will adjust the prompt. And before we move on, we have here a deterministic step where we make sure that whatever answer we have, we structure it in a certain format. And hence, this is a prompt to say whatever input you receive from the previous step, format it such as it respects the structure. Obviously, when we specialize this, we will adjust the prompt accordingly. And finally, we have a mechanism to request, if needed, input from a human to validate this and go through, or have yet another iteration. And with that, Radu, please um, do show us how you can specialize this agent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sebi, for the introduction. I'll share my screen right now. So, as Eusebi mentioned earlier, you can leverage that generic agent to create something very powerful and unique, adapted for a specific use case. For this scenario, we developed a spending analyst agent, which has the purpose of gathering information about company spending policy, some past spending habits, and also connecting to an MCP server, to Stripe, to fetch the actual transactions. And with all this information gathered in one place, the agent can flag out suspicious transactions and can also check how compliant they are with the company policy and the usual habits. In order to start to develop the agent and to test it, we first have to start with the company policy and the spending habits, which will be indexed in will be ingested in our indexes. In order to do this, you can either create your own files with your specific data, or for this example, we will just use some sample ones. So this is how the company policy looks like. It contains some general spending rules. Basically, it has some rules for every category of possible spending for employees.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in a bit more?
Sure. Is it better like this?
The slightly more. Yeah, and we can reduce the file explorer tab.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, so the company policy, as I mentioned earlier, contains some constraints for different spending categories. And if we check the spending habits, we can see some usual patterns and let's say like statistics for what do employees usually spend money on from the company's budget, right? So if we get these two files and move them from the resources directory to our root directory, we can see them right here. Then, in order to have this data actually used by our agent in Orchestrator, in UiPath Orchestrator, we need to create the context grounding indexes from these text files. In order to do this, we navigate to storage buckets, because we first have to create some storage buckets that serve as a base for our indexes. And we just have to create a new storage bucket. I already have them created here. We can follow these steps. We just have to name it and click add. Furthermore, for the indexes, we navigate to the indexes tab, and we will create another index like in these instructions. When we create an index, it's very important to link it to the previously created storage bucket in order to be synced with the actual data. All right. After we have the indexes in place, it's time to initialize the project. And in order to have a fully working agent, we first have to initialize the environment and prepare it with our necessary requirements. You can run this for fetching the actual dependencies. The main one used will be UiPath LlamaIndex and the main UiPath SDK. After we have this in place, it's time to authenticate with the UiPath platform. We can do this through this command. And if we run it, we will be authenticated. All right. After we are authenticated and selected the tenant, we should check that the .env file contains this information. All right. So now we have the indexes in Orchestrator, we are authenticated, and now it's time to build the actual agent. All right. To build the agent, we can extend this index configs that is present also in the generic agent. And we adapted it to use the company policy file and the spending habits from the index. And this will serve as tools for our agent in a later stage. All right, so after we create the config of the indexes for the agent, we will need to instantiate the UiPath SDK, which will serve as a tool to access the indexes and to populate them in UiPath. This is the exact helper method that we also observed earlier in our generic agent. And now let's see what the agent flow is like. It's mainly similar to the generic agent, but it has some add-ons. So it still contains these two flags, add data to index and include human in the loop. The reason we want to have add data to index is because we might not want every time to re-ingest the data in our indexes. All right, so after we define these events, which serve like as the steps for the workflow of the agent, it's time to set up our LLM model. In order to do this, we can either use generic and standard chat models like Chat OpenAI, but to do this, we will need an API key, and we will need to add it in the .env file. Or we can either use the UiPath chat model for the LlamaIndex extension, which is UiPath OpenAI, and there is no need to provide any API key for this. All right. So we created our LLM model. Now it's time to actually generate the tools from our indexes. So for this, we just iterate through the index configs we defined earlier and append them as tools to our agent, which will be used further to obtain the information. Now we got to the main workflow of the agent, which orchestrates the main behavior, and it has an entry point. And now, depending on whether we checked the add data to index flag or not, it navigates further either to add the data to index or it goes straight to querying the event. So after it indexes our data and waits for it to finish ingesting, we can navigate to the process query. And this is the place where the main logic of the agent actually happens. In this place, we connect to an MCP server, to a Stripe MCP server, in order to fetch the transactions. to compare them with our current data that we have. By that I mean the company policy and the spending habits. I will show you some sample transactions I added to Stripe, which look like this. We can see the amount and the description. And we can instruct the agent to retrieve all payment intents from Stripe, and then query company policy knowledge base and query spending habits knowledge base. So after the agent fetches the payment intents, the company policy knowledge, and also the spending habits, it should analyze each transaction for policy compliance and pattern anomalies. And then we request it from the agent to analyze each transaction in 2 dimensions: policy compliance and pattern analysis. We want to check how compliant and how normal is every transaction. After the analysis, we want to categorize the findings in different categories like policy violation, anomaly, and compliant, in case it meets the policy and aligns with normal patterns. Okay, so after the agent runs, we will want to format the final answer in order to have a deterministic answer as much as we can. And we want the agent's output to respect this format, which contains the same information, but it's just more structured. After the final answer is formatted, it's time to request human confirmation. And this is the moment where the agent actually asks the human if the answer was satisfactory or not. In order to actually provide feedback to the agent, we use an UiPath app from the Action Center, which we will see in a moment. And if the human input is okay, then the execution of the agent ends. But instead, if the human says reject the answer and provides feedback, the agent will reiterate using that feedback as additional data. All right. So after we defined our whole workflow that we just been through, it's time to create an instance of it. And since the agent requires an entry point Python file, a .py file, I'll just update the Python file from an existing one, which contains the same information as the one provided in this notebook. So it's just a way to ensure the agent has a valid entry point. All right, so after we have our entry point, it's time to reinitialize the project using UiPath init. When we run UiPath init, an UiPath.json file is being created. And this file contains the entry points of the agent, including the input arguments, their types, and also the output type, output argument. And besides those entry points, it also contains the bindings, which serve as a mapping between the resources defined in the agent and the actual resources used in Orchestrator. And they are useful because this is the way our agent knows how to run in UiPath Orchestrator 2. All right, so after the UiPath JSON is created, we can create an input.json file, which will serve as an input for our agent. So in this, for this example, the query is please provide a detailed analysis of the company's payments and flag any potential compliance issues. But this could be replaced with any other prompt that is related to the scope of the agent. So, for example, we could query the transactions that happened last month and that belong to the food sector, or we can query every financial insight about the company spendings that we wish. Since we want to add the data to index to check the ingestion works, we will run the agent with this input.json file. So in order to do this, we will run this CLI command, UiPath run agent. The agent is the entry point of the agent defined earlier, and the input file will be input.json. After we run the agent locally, we will also check our interactive CLI tool for running agents locally. And after this, we will also deploy, take and publish and deploy the agent to Orchestrator, where we will create an actual process that can run in cloud. So we can run the agent both locally and in Orchestrator.
If I may, Radu, to intervene for a second
Sure.
until the agent runs. Thanks. Hi, guys. Happy to be here. My name is Radu, and I'm one of the main contributors of the open source UiPath libraries, coded agents. And I would like to emphasize a bit the bindings section that Radu just described. So bindings are actually very, this is the binding section. Thank you, Radu. Those are very powerful. So imagine that you build an agent, right? And you evaluate it and you make sure it works as expected. And that's it. You don't need to touch the code again. If, for instance, you want to test the agent in a test environment and then you want to promote it to production, you just do this in Orchestrator without touching the code. So at the runtime, we'll inject the resources you chose here. So this basically allows anyone to develop an agent and then at the runtime, pick and choose the exact resources to be used. So imagine you have like a staging environment, a production one, same agent can work very good in both of them. You can run evals in an environment, and if that's okay, you just pick the production indexes, the production storage buckets, the production assets, whatever, and then run the agent in production. Okay. This is what I wanted to emphasize. We can go back to the presentation. Thank you, Radu.
Yeah. Thank you, Radu. All right. So as we can see, our agent ran, and it ingested the files that we created earlier to the indexes that we created earlier. So right now the indexes are populated with information. And we can actually see the output in a text editor because it's easier to observe. All right, so we can see that it connected to the MCP server, the Stripe MCP server, and loaded 25 tools, which are provided by that MCP server. So after we fetched the tools, the agent finds the best tools needed for actually executing the required task. So we can see that the answer came formatted in the required amount. And we can see that it found the transactions that exceeded the limit for the company credit, and also found some compliant transactions. And it also provided some recommendations for the future and to check those transactions that are flagged out as suspicious. So since we run this without the human in the loop flag, we were not prompted, we were not asked if this answer was satisfactory or not. So this run finished. So running the agent from CLI with this is one way of doing it. And another way is to just enter your preferred terminal, make sure you are in the virtual environment, and just write UiPath dev. And this is the interactive way of doing this, even if we run it locally. So I will need to unzoom a bit, I think. Oh, no. Oh, okay. So we can see a history that contains multiple runs, but right now, since it's empty, it does not contain anything. So let's take this query and provide it here. All right, and let's click run. All right, so we can see that we have 4 tabs: details, which contain the input and output, which is not yet finished; the traces, which show us the paths and the tools the agent is calling; and we can also see the logs, which are the logs that we also saw earlier when we run it from our CLI. We also have a chat option, which is for conversational agents, which is not the case for this one. All right, so we can see that the agent runs successfully, and we can actually see its output down below here. And we can see that it provided the output. And the interesting thing about this CLI interface is that we can actually trace what our agent did behind the hood. And we can see that it called the tool for query engine. It called again the tool for query engine. And we can see every step our agent's been through. So this is a very powerful tool if you want to test your agents locally and just make sure the flow is what is expected to be. All right. So after we developed our agent and tested it locally and made sure it runs all right, it's time to pack and publish it to the UiPath platform. But before doing this, we need to make sure that our PyProject file contains the version, the author, the description, and lists the required dependencies. So this is an example PyProject.tml file, which contains the exact fields that were mentioned earlier. So the first thing we need to do is to just pack our agent by running UiPath pack. After our agent is packed, we just have to publish it, and we have to mention the folder. We can either mention the folder here or just leave it as UiPath publish, and we will be prompted for the selection of a folder. So let's publish our package. And after the package was published, we can actually see it in UiPath Orchestrator. So if we go to the folder that we uploaded it to and go to automations, we need to create a process from this folder. So in order to do this, we just add the process. We will search for the package source name, which in this case is demo agent, but all right, and now we have to provide the environment configuration, because in order to connect to the Stripe MCP, we used a Stripe API key, which I will take from .env and just paste it here. We'll leave this as default. These are runtime arguments, but this can be overwritten at every run of the agent. So we will click next. As we can see here at package requirements, it references the indexes that we earlier created. And now we can add a display name, which can be, let's say, financial analyst, or let's say spending, just to be consistent. And now we created the process. We can see the process right here. I'll just make this a bit smaller. We can see the version. And now we can run it by pressing start a job. The moment we run a process, a job is created, which will contain the traces, the logs, the execution details. So let's add the query we provided earlier. We can actually take it from our input.json file. Now, we wouldn't want to add the data again to the index because we already did this earlier when we ran it locally. So we will check this as false. And this time we will include a human in the loop. So after the agent provides an answer, we will be prompted and asked if what it did is indeed good or not. So as you see, this is a pretty similar interface as UiPath Dev. We have logs, traces as earlier, and details. So right now, the process started, the job started, and we can see it was in a state of pending, and right now it's running. So and a pretty interesting thing we will see is that after the agent finishes running, the state will not be successful, but will be suspended. And this is because we included the human in the loop logic. So it will be a good indicator that it's time to provide human feedback. All right, so we can actually observe real-time logs. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, we can see the state is now suspended, and we have some resume conditions, right? So this is a new tab that appeared just right now. And if we enter resume conditions, we can see that we have an action required for payment review. And if we click it, we have this action. First, we have to assign it to ourselves. All right. And now we can see that the agent output is in this app. And we can see the policy violations, the compliant transactions, and the recommendations. And now if we want, we can say that the answer was not satisfactory. So no. And we should provide it some feedback in order to learn from it and for the next iteration to apply it. So let's say that the recommendations are not all right. So I want other recommendations. All right. And now we click reject and mark this task as complete. So we can see the task completed successfully. And now if we go back to our jobs, we can see that the same job that was suspended will be now resumed after we completed the action. So this is a very powerful tool to make sure that agents actually run attended by humans, and are running under some human control. So, all right, and now it started running again, resuming from that point that we saw earlier. Oh, okay, so it got to the MCP server step again. When we defined our agent in the workflow, we instructed it to repeat this logic for a maximum number of 3 iterations. This is a number you can decide for your specific use case. In this case, it was put to 3 just to have a limit for this human in the loop. All right, so we can see it is running with our feedback. We can see it's calling the tools. Okay, so it seems that the reconnection to the MCP server after running the tool failed after this delay. So we can see the actual error here in Orchestrator, and we can see this stack trace here too. So if we just rerun it with the previous input, and this time, let's say we do not include human in the loop, we can see how the process will look like in Orchestrator. So these are other successful runs. Okay, so it is running. And for this scenario, we can also see the trace and the execution trace. And we can see each step it went through. And we can see it. All right. And we can also see the step where it failed. All right. So the traces are very similar to the ones presented earlier in UiPath Dev interface. So it's a good way to debugging your agent. All right. So we can see our agent successfully run. And this is the output. If we format it a bit, we will see that is very similar to the local run. So transaction details, pattern anomalies, and so on. All right. This was the human in the loop, and this was the spending analysis agent. This is just a sample of a simple agent that you can do for your specific use case. All right.
So, okay. Thank you so much, Radu. And so I have some questions from the audience throughout the session, and I've just refined them. And the first question was, how do you integrate, long-term memory into these agents? Should it be like a vector database, or episodic storage, or hybrid models? What should be the best approach?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I can take a shot at it. So it depends, right? It really depends on what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to build, but you can do both within UiPath. So if you wish to have like a short-term memory, that's basically the agent state. And one
Yeah.
very important thing, as Radu mentioned before, is that when the execution is interrupted, so in this case with LlamaIndex, the state is not lost. So when the agent resumes, it already have all the information it had before the execution got suspended. So that's very good because you can make sure that in one run, doesn't matter if it includes human in the loop, it will already have all the context. On the other side, if you want multiple agents, let's say, to share the same context or to be aware of the same things that Radu Gheorghe showed before with the company policy index and the pattern index, you can do the same. You can have multiple agents and connect them to this vector DB, basically, which is a UiPath index, and then perform a RAG on it. So the question is that it depends on what you're trying to build. Both can be valid answers for different use cases. And the with UiPath you can have both of them and hybrid combinations as well.
Okay. So another question that I saw, and I just refined the language, was, if a person is not familiar with the UiPath platform, how should they go about learning UiPath agents? Should they just start with UiPath agents, or should they go through? Is there a learning curve to talk up when you talk about UiPath platform? Right? What would be the ideal way to go about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure there is a learning curve as with any other service, but it's not very steep. And we already provide a bunch of samples. So if you go to our open source repositories, the main one being UiPath Python, you can find there a sample section, and you have a bunch of agents that you can play with them starting today. You can open a community account if you wish, and then you have the agents that show you how to implement human in the loop, how to implement RAG, how to implement stuff like memory. So it's really very easy from there. There are very good follow along guides. So my personal recommendation would be just start simple with our quick start agent. In like 5 minutes, you can have it up and running both locally and in cloud. And from now on, you can switch to the simple section and try more powerful stuff.
Okay. So
Yeah, just to add a bit on that part. Even more than that, we are now onboarded with Agents MD, and we will continue to provide dedicated support for coding agents. So coding agent will have full dedicated context for the way you can build with UiPath and deploy with UiPath. So one example would be Agents MD and Person MD, but we will expand the portfolio, and that is a continuous effort. The effect, the implication of this is that it will mind the gap, and it will lower the barrier to entry and the knowledge you need to start up and make modifications. So it's non-zero, but that distance is narrowing as we go with the native deep integrations with coding agents like Codex, Jules, Cursor, and so on.
Yeah, that they basically help us with the part of the code, and not just part, maybe sometimes the entirety of the code, right? So another question was, is the code that you showed us in this session today, is it available on a in a repository or somewhere?
This specific code is in a
Yeah,
private repository, but we have, as Radu mentioned earlier, we have a bunch of samples in our open source libraries, which are very similar to what we just presented earlier. So you can find many samples on our repository in GitHub.
sure. Okay. I found this question very relevant and a bit cute as well. But yeah, at your level, how do you guys study and learn AI? How do the creators of AI learn AI?
Well,
Anybody can take it up, yeah.
yeah, this I think this is a very open-ended question.
Yep.
Well, the thing is, building state-of-the-art solutions, you don't know what's coming, right? So this is the main advantage I really think that UiPath has now, because we are not trying to lock in anyone, but we are trying to support existing frameworks. So right now with this coded agent SDK, we have integrations for LlamaIndex and LangChain, both very good, very powerful frameworks, and we are on top of it. So for sure we are following the latest AI trends. We read a lot. I personally have like an hour every morning just sipping through my coffee and figuring out what happened on forums, on X, on Reddit and stuff like that. But also this is the main advantage that you'd have with coded agents at UiPath. The main advantage is that you don't need to know everything,
Yeah.
because we are not trying to build the best agentic framework. We are trying to be the best platform that supports all of the best agentic frameworks, as we do now with LangChain and LlamaIndex.
Yeah. Yeah, that showed in the entirety of the session as well. So another good question. What's the first thing to check when an agent stops responding mid-task?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So this is why we have observability baked into our platform. And as Radu showed in the demo, you have the traces tab. I think that's the best way you can debug an agent, or if you want to be like old-fashioned, you can just print stuff and see them in the logs panel. So this is a scenario that it shouldn't happen, but it might. So we are sure we have top-notch observability. You can see whenever an error happens or stuff like that, what happened in the traces panel, because the agent is emitting spans as it goes. But more than that, and I think we will present this in a future demo in another session. We are working and already have evals for the agents. So you would make sure that this is not happening. You would catch all of those stuff using evaluations for the agent. And in production, this is a scenario that you should make sure it won't happen, but if it does, you have all of the traces available.
So not a question that the audience is asking, but I have a question as well. Uh, so actually, I have two questions. So although I kind of know the answer to the first question, but why such explicit focus on human in the loop?
Okay, yeah. Well, as Adi said in the beginning, agents are really great. They are very powerful. You can use LLMs nowadays for many tasks, but the main problem is that still they are not that reliable. So that's the main problem. You can build a fantastic agent, but if it works 90% of the time, it's not good enough for
Yeah.
most production flows. So this is why we are very careful about this human in the loop feature, that it's very important. And I'll add another thing here. We have another feature. You can find it in our documentation. Maybe we can paste it somewhere in the chat. Maybe we have, other than human in the loop, we have also agents in the loop. And this is another nice feature. So an agent can invoke another agent and then wait for that agent to complete, get the answer, and resume the execution. So you can have a workflow within an agent with multiple node steps, as Radu showed, but you can also have like 10 agents working with each other and having human in the loop, agent in the loop. It's really what makes those agents reliable.
Okay. So basically, when you're using agent in the loop, the agent is going to help with the evaluation, or is it something like that?
So imagine this: you can Radu showed us that agent, and that agent did a lot of stuff, right? It went through MCP, which by the way is also hosted within UiPath. It got stuff from Stripe, and then it fetches some data from the indexes, and then searches for anomalies and stuff like that. But maybe you want to be more granular with those stuff, right? You want to have one agent that is very specialized into Stripe. It knows how the transactions work. It knows how to use the MCP. You evaluate that agent. It works very good every time. And then instead of baking the logic of querying the indexes into the same agent, you can have another agent that's specialized only into this stuff. And you can test them in parallel, but at production time, they work together. One agent is starting as a processing orchestrator, and at some point it asks the other agent something. The first agent suspends, waits for the second agent to resume, and then after it got the response, it resumes. So basically, in this case, it's not a human in the loop, it's an agent in the loop.
Okay. So there's another question from the audience. How much latency to expect during LLM and retrieval steps? I assume he means LLM generation, and whether the impact differs for workflow-based automation compared to real-time applications. So that's it depends, right? But that, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So as always, it depends. But this is the magic with code, because we have all of those very great low code uh, low code builders, and they are very powerful for stuff, for things that are simpler. But in code, you can do everything, and us as engineers know that there is always a way to improve the performance for a specific task. In this case, yeah, it might happen, but it's code, right? You can have, instead of one LLM call that takes a lot and it's flooding the context window of that particular LLM, you can change the model. You can have multiple calls and then aggregate the response at a later point. You can do all of those stuff. But to answer the specific question, it shouldn't be the latency shouldn't increase in encoded agents from another low code workflow.
Okay. So another good question, I'll just rephrase it. What about fallbacks? When should we, is agent in the loop kind of like a fallback mechanism, or is it like an evaluation mechanism? And when should we implement fallbacks?
No, so agent in the loop is not an evaluation mechanism. We will showcase our evaluation mechanism, our evaluation framework that we find really powerful. But no, agent in the loop is just a way that's baked in the UiPath platform, the orchestrator, for multiple agents to coordinate with each other and intercommunicate. Now, I don't. Maybe I can ask some clarifying question. I don't know exactly what fallback refers to. Like fallback if the agent is not performing well. Is that
Yes.
the case?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can have a fallback. You can have any kind of logic you want within those frameworks. But this is sort of the things that the evaluation of the agent should take care of.
Mhm. Okay. So then the next obvious question would become, how do you actually evaluate the accuracy, right? In AI, right? In the olden times, accuracy was much easier to calculate.
Yeah.
Then Gen AI came into play, and now agents made it much harder to evaluate solutions, right? How do you evaluate your agents? And is that, obviously accuracy might not be a good metric, but how do you evaluate agents using UiPath?
I think the good news and the short answer to that would be we have a dedicated session on that. It's quite an extensive topic. Rather, like you mentioned, it's something that we We cover very well end-to-end, and I think this can be a differentiator. And we're also looking forward to showing you in our future session.
That's great. That's great. So, guys, let's wait for that session. So, are there any other questions? So, yeah, no. So, I guess that's our time. A huge thank you to you guys, Ibisu, Isibu, Adrian, Radu, and Radu for joining us today. You guys have been absolutely amazing, and you guys have given us an incredible look into the UiPath platform, how it is turning the concept of agentic AI into simple but practical reality. Especially how you have had basically embedded trust, control, and reliability. They are basically the central cog of the platform. Uh, the key takeaway for me would have been that thing people are saying that this is going to come down 5 years, 10 years down the line, and but now this is not, this is today, right? We are able to build and deploy reliable autonomous agents, right? So that's absolutely amazing. uh, any last words, any conclusions? So there is another question, but yeah, can it work in offline on-premises network? Yeah. Can it replace the machine
Yes. So offline, I mean on-premise, what we offer on-premise is our automation suite, which with the upcoming release will include coded agents as well. And I'm not sure what they mean by the second question of replace the machine operator, because it will basically operate on a serverless robot.
Yeah, that's like autonomous robots, right? But yeah, that's something that you would need a lot of hardware for as well, right? So, any ending notes, ending remarks that you guys would like to have?
Yes, I do. I wanted to give a quick overview of our coded agents. This is where we've shown that you can easily have basically your framework of choice being packed and published and deployed into UiPath, either in Studio or in Orchestrator or in Maestro. But you can also use the assets, context grounding, LLMs exposed with LLM gateway, connections, and so on, directly in the SDK itself. And I also wanted to mention, because there were questions of, okay, so what do we do? You can start from a sample, like you've mentioned, Radu. You can obviously see other samples. We have Agents MD to help you out with that in your coding agents that you use. So start from scratch, but you can also get help. We also encourage you to then think about how you operationalize this. So pack and publish using the UiPath CLI, add evals, which is something that we'll show you in our upcoming session, deploy it as a process, and then monitor it in Orchestrator, in Agent Instance Monitor. Now, if you do this and it works out really well, consider scale. This would be including it maybe in a Maestro flow, something that can be automating your end-to-end business. You can use escalations where it matters with Action Center, and then as making it really enterprise, look into AI trust layer, bringing in audit, policies, PI protection, and whatnot. We also do have 2 upcoming events, one in November the 27th, focusing on LangGraph, and we will show you more there in terms of how we tackle agents and dip a bit into MCP as well. And in December the 18th, we will deep dive on the evals.
Okay.
That was it from us.
Okay. So thank you guys, and really thank you to our audience. Thank you for your time and your fantastic questions. I hope this inspires all of you watching to explore these tools and start building your AI agents on UiPath. And I have pasted the link for the repository. This is a public repository for UiPath Python, where you can just look at the tools you can use and how to create your own AI agents. There's like a 5-minute primer as well, which can help you look at really quickly build your agents, right? Just start exploring, just start doing, learn by doing, right? Thank you. This has been our time. I'm Sampurna Ranjan from Geeks for Geeks. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.